The chandelier cast a warm golden glow over the elegant restaurant, its crystals catching the light like scattered stars. Emma Martinez clutched her small purse tighter as she stepped through the heavy glass doors, her heart already racing. The invitation had been clear, company-wide dinner to celebrate the quarterly results. What it hadn't mentioned was that this would be the kind of place where a single glass of wine cost more than her wee. Emma had been working as an intern at Sterling & Associates for 3 months now, 3 months of filing papers, making coffee, and trying her best to remain invisible in the gleaming corporate offices. She preferred it that way. The tension made her nervous. In a building full of sharp suits and sharper minds, she felt like a small fish swimming with sharks. The hostess, a woman with perfectly styled blonde hair and a smile that belonged in a magazine, approached with a clipboard. "Good evening, name, please." "Emma Martinez," she said softly, having to repeat herself when the music and conversation drowned out her voice. The hostess scanned her list, her manicured finger trailing down the page. "Ah, yes, table 12. She gestured toward the back of the restaurant. "Right this way." Emma followed, weaving between tables filled with her colleagues. She recognized faces from the office, the accounting team sharing appetizers, a marketing department already deep into their second bottle of wine. Everyone looked so comfortable, so perfectly in their element. Emma tugged at the hem of her emerald green dress, a bargain find that had seemed perfect in her apartment mirror, but now felt too simple, too plain. Table 12 sat in a quiet corner, bathed in candlelight. 2 place settings faced each other. Across crisp white linen, wine glasses already filled with what looked like expensive red wine. Emma hesitated. This seemed too intimate for a company dinner. She glanced back at the hostess, but the woman had already disappeared into the crowd. Maybe this was a mistake. Maybe she should find someone to ask about the seating arrangements. But before she could move, the chair across from her was pulled out, and a man settled into it with the kind of easy confidence that Emma had always envied. He was handsome, in that effortless way that some people seem to be born with: dark hair perfectly styled, strong jawline, eyes that seemed to take in everything at once. His suit probably cost more than Emma's monthly rent, and he wore it like a second skin. Everything about him screamed success and privilege. "Sorry I'm late," he said, his voice carrying that particular tone of someone who wasn't really sorry at all. "Traffic was murder." Emma opened her mouth to explain that there must be some confusion, that she didn't belong at this table, but he was already signaling the waiter. "We'll start with the oysters," he said without consulting her, "and bring us another bottle of the Bordeaux." The waiter nodded and hurried away. The man turned back to Emma with a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "I hope you don't mind. I took the liberty of ordering for us. The chef here is exceptional, but most people don't know how to navigate the menu properly." Emma felt her cheeks flush. There was something in his tone, a casual arrogance that made her bristle. She had encountered men like this before, men who assumed they knew better, who made decisions without asking, who treated others like they were somehow less capable. "Actually," she said, her voice still quiet but with an edge of steel, "I prefer to choose my own food." He raised an eyebrow, seeming amused rather than offended. "Of course, my apologies." He leaned back in his chair, studying her with renewed interest. "You know, I don't think we've been properly introduced. "Let me guess," Emma interrupted, surprised by her own boldness. "You're the type of man who thinks money makes you important, who believes that wearing an expensive suit gives you the right to make decisions for other people." The man blinked, clearly taken aback. Around them, the restaurant continued its gentle hum of conversation and clinking glasses, but their table had fallen into a bubble of tension. "That's quite an assumption," he said slowly. "Is it wrong?" they asked. She thought of her morning routine, taking the subway to work while men in cars like his sat in traffic, complaining about delays. She thought of her small apartment, where she carefully budgeted every dollar, while people like him threw around money without thinking. "Let me paint a picture for you. You drive a car that costs more than most people's houses. You live in a penthouse somewhere with a view of the city. You've never worried I'll rent in the same month." The man's expression had grown serious, the casual arrogance replaced by something more thoughtful. "You're not entirely wrong," he admitted. "And you probably think that people like me, people who work normal jobs, who take the subway, who shop for clothes at discount stores, that we're somehow beneath you, that we don't understand the world the way you do." Emma was on a roll now, months of frustration pouring out. She thought of every condescending comment from clients, every assumption made about her capabilities based on her appearance or background. You sit in your corner offices and make decisions that affect hundreds of people, but you never actually talk to those people. You never ask what they need or what they think. You just assume you know better because you have money and power. The waiter appeared with the oysters, setting them down carefully and retreating quickly, sensing the tension at the table. The man sat quietly for a long moment, absently turning his wineglass in his hands. The candlelight flickered across his face, and Emma noticed something she hadn't before, a tiredness around his eyes, a weight that expensive suits couldn't hide. "You're right," he said finally, about most of it anyway. He looked up at her, and his expression was different now, more genuine, more human. "I do live in a penthouse, I do drive an expensive car, and you're probably right that I don't understand what it's like to worry about rent and groceries." Emma felt some of her anger deflate, replaced by curiosity. But he continued, "I don't think you're beneath me, actually. I think you might be the most honest person I've talked to in months." He reached for one of the oysters, then paused. "May I ask what you do? For work, I mean." "An intern," Emma said, her voice smaller now, "at Sterling & Associates." The man went very still. Sterling & Associates. "Yes, I work in the filing department mostly, making copies, organizing documents, nothing important." A strange expression crossed his face, part surprise, part something else Emma couldn't identify. "And what's your name?" "Emma Martinez." He nodded slowly, as if confirming something to himself. "Emma Martinez, intern." He was quiet for another moment, then looked up at her with a smile that was different from his earlier ones. This one seemed real, warm, even. "I'm Alexander Sterling." Emma felt the blood drain from her face. Alexander Sterling, as in Sterling & Associates, as in her boss, as in the CEO of the company where she worked. "Oh, God," she whispered. "Oh, God, I'm so sorry. I didn't know. I thought you were just—" She gestured helplessly at his expensive suit, his confident demeanor. "That's not so richtig bein condescending." Alexander's smile widened. "You weren't wrong about that part." Emma buried her face in her hands. "I'm fired, aren't I? I just told the CEO of my company that he's an arrogant, out-of-touch elitist." "Actually," Alexander said gently, "you told me exactly what I needed to hear." Emma peeked at him through her fingers. "What do you mean?" Alexander leaned forward, his expression serious but kind. "Do you know why I started this company, Emma?" She shook her head. "Because I wanted to build something that mattered, something that would help people, not just make money," he sighed, running a hand through his dark hair. "But somewhere along the way, I lost sight of that. I got caught up in board meetings and profit margins and forgot about the people who actually make the company work." He gestured around the restaurant. "I haven't eaten anywhere that didn't require reservations in months. I have 3 assistants whose job it is to make sure I never have to deal with anything unpleasant. I live in a bubble, exactly like you said." Emma slowly lowered her hands. "So I'm not fired?" Alexander laughed, a genuine sound that transformed his entire face. "Not only are you not fired, but I'd like to offer you a different position. We're restructuring our employee relations department, and I think we could use someone with your perspective." "My Perspektive?" "Someone who's not afraid to tell me when I'm being an out-of-touch elitist," he said with a grin. "Someone who understands what it's like to work for a living, to worry about real things." Emma stared at him. "Are you serious?" "Completely," Alexander raised his wineglass. "But first, would you like to start this dinner over? Properly this time. I promise to let you order your own food." Emma felt a smile tugging at her lips. Despite everything, "I'd like that." "Gut," Alexander signalte weiter again, and Emma, "Thank you." "For what?" "For reminding me why I started this company in the first place, for being brave enough to speak your mind even when you thought it might cost you." As the waiter approached with menus, Emma realized that sometimes the biggest mistakes could lead to the most unexpected opportunities, and sometimes the person who seemed the most different from you might be exactly who you needed to meet. A candlelight flickered between them, warm and welcoming, as they began their conversation again, this time as equals.